Max, the one to watch for the best in entertainment, now has live sports with the Bleacher Report sports add-on.
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
Stream hundreds of select live games from MLB.
That's gonna go!
NBA, NHL, U.S. Soccer, and NCAA Men's March Madness.
We just see what we think we just saw!
And it's all included for a limited time with any Max subscription.
He got him!
After the promo period, add it for $9.99 a month. Base subscription required.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Some things are just better together, like party playlists and Friday nights, campfires and ghost stories, peanut butter and chocolate. And Reese's Cups are the perfect combination of creamy peanut butter and delicious milk chocolate. So, when you want something sweet, you can't do better than Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Buy Reese's today wherever candy is sold.
Serie A Chronicles is a Maya Chronicles production.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Serie A Chronicles podcast with me, Nikki Bandini. I've got Mina Rizuki with me as always, and got so much to talk about this week, Mina. I almost don't even know where to start. And last night, of course, I did a bit of NFL work as well. I'm going to be covering the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, even though I haven't done much NFL this season, to be truthful. And so I was sort of trying to watch the championship games at the same time as the football yesterday, multi-screening a bit. And I had to give up on the NFL games and say I'd watch them later because Napoli Roma was such a great game. But I was curious, Mina, because I know we've talked about it before. Do you still ever watch NFL? Because I feel like you maybe have dabbled a little bit. And last night we had what I saw someone on Twitter describe as the outfield player in goal scenario. Because San Francisco kept losing quarterbacks until they didn't have any quarterbacks left. And so you had that point where it's like, someone's got to go there and throw the ball, even though they don't know it's not their job. And I thought it was a fun sort of crossover moment when I saw someone say that about outfield players in goal.
I'm about this close, Nikki, to losing all the people I love because of sport. Yeah, I was like, I had to watch Djokovic. So guys, there was the story, basically what I was telling Nikki about all my plans to take Formula One, and all of this stuff. And she was saying, Formula One was notoriously hard on finding reporters to cover it because if you have family and kids and you're flying out every week to go to a different Grand Prix, and it can take a toll on the family life. And I was like, screw it, I definitely do it. I was like, wake up to see Djokovic, and then it's all of Serie A where it's Milan's amazing. Well, I mean, amazing game, not they're amazing. And then obviously Juventus is madness. And then it's just one thing after another. Lazio, Fiorentina, obviously that perfect game. And by the way, I didn't even leave it there. I actually rewatched the second half because it was that entertaining to me that I thought I might have missed stuff. So I watched that again. Obviously, that meant that I didn't watch the Philadelphia Eagles game, but I did watch the other one. So it means I didn't sleep till about 3:10 in the morning.
Oh, yes. That's definitely one thing I'm slightly relieved about doing a bit less NFL coverage, frankly, is that my sleep has been slightly better, not trying to cover that into the small hours of the morning every week. But look, this isn't the NFL podcast. This is the Serie A Chronicles podcast. So we should get right into it.
Tune in for the possibility of this soon becoming.
Could be next. Mention while we're here at the start, I know lots of people listening to this are already Chronicles Tifosi Patreon members, and we love and appreciate you all for that. Just to let you know that there is an offer right now for a 14-day free trial. So if you're not currently signed up, great time to check out the podcast, and you can try it out for free and see how great we are. Because obviously we're great, aren't we, Mina?
Yeah, totally.
Obviously. Our producer is we're so great that I'd forgotten to mention the link, seriachronicles.com/Patreon. Thank you, producer Simon, who's also great. So this week, there's so much to get into. There was an outrageously fun game between Napoli and Roma, which Mina's already mentioned about having to watch the second half of twice because it was that good. We had Milan losing to Sassuolo, meaning they're now 6 games out of winning all competitions, but not just losing to Sassuolo, losing 5-2, having lost previously on Tuesday since our last main podcast. They lost 4-0 to Lazio, having previous to that lost 3-0 in the Supercoppa to Inter. So Milan having this crisis moment. And then there's also Juventus losing to Monza, second time they lost to Monza this season. That's a story with 2 parts to it, frankly, because there's Juventus and their situation. There's also Monza, who I think since they've appointed Raffaele Palladino in September, by the way, so not 5 minutes ago, I think there's 4 teams in all of Serie A who've got more points than them in that time. So absolutely crazy the work that he's doing there as well. But as we're recording this, honestly, about 5 minutes ago, the Italian Football Federation, it's probably more than 5 now, but not many minutes ago, Italian Football Federation dropped the full verdict from Juventus, the 15-point penalty that Juventus were given in the Plusvalenza case. We've obviously talked about the Plusvalenza case a fair bit on this show before, and this is another sort of really big development in it. We've learned some important details. They've explained a bit more about, the sporting judge has explained a bit more about why this verdict was handed down. There's some really interesting stuff about invoices being sort of tinkered with pen after the fact to make the numbers fit. We're going to get into all of that with the sort of the caveat that we haven't had much time to digest it. We are going to get into all of that. But we had to talk about it and we thought we shouldn't always start with the same topic. So we're going to start with the football this time because the football was brilliant. So trust us when you start listening to this. We will get to that and talk about it soon. But we want to start off, Mina, or at least I want to start off, and I'm hosting today, so I get to choose.
Yes.
With Napoli against Roma. Did you expect this game? I didn't expect this game. We had this build up to it with Jose Mourinho saying, look, they've already won the title and that's right, they're the best team. And, Mourinho, mind games, whatever. But in the end, I felt like Roma gave them a great game, but also still left us thinking, yeah, Napoli are the best team in the league, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, right now I think they're the best team in the world. But then I'm like, oh, Arsenal are pretty good, so.
Steady. You can't say that out loud.
It's just one of those matches. I think more than shocking is that Napoli's performance aside, like you were always expecting that. I think Roma's the one that shocked me. Their first half performance, perhaps not in any way, shape or form. They didn't have a single shot on target. But the way that things changed in the second half, the way that they played the game, the confidence that they showed, I loved it. Like, I just thought this is kind of the Roma that I expected to watch. And for me, that was I know Jose Mourinho is always linked with a very defensive side, but it's that kind of side that works hard, that runs a lot, that has a great outlet in Steven El Shaarawy. And it was just, for me, like, they made this game so much fun. I mean, watching them against Milan, it was like 86 minutes of nothing. And then obviously 2 brilliant goals from set pieces, because that's what they do so well. And I always thought that they were going to carry this thread, but the way that they played the second half, the interest that they showed in it, even the last moments where you didn't know if they were going to get that equalizer and make it 2-2. I mean, there's so many superlatives that I can talk about when it came to Napoli, from Osimhen to Giovanni to Simeone, which I'm sure you'll go into, but it was honestly one of the best matches. And right now, when I'm feeling really low about Serie A, I'm really glad for this game.
Yeah, I wonder if that's also, why sometimes we want to start on the football, because there's so much talk about the not football at the moment, and it's important. We're not trying to shy away from it. That will all be in here. We're not going to skimp on it. Mm-hmm. But in the end, neither you or I, Mina, start reporting on football just to sort of report on legal battles. We started reporting on football because football is thrilling as sport can be, and this was such a good game that it almost deserves not to be sort of overshadowed by other stuff that's been going on. I think exactly what you said, you kind of hit the nail on the head there for me, which is, it's like I want to talk about celebrating Napoli because they're the best team in Serie A. It's not close. And that's what Mourinho's point was before the game. He was saying, like, it's not just that Napoli are ahead, it's that no one's playing well enough to keep up with them. They are just better than everyone. Having said that, what made this game interesting was not that Napoli were brilliant, because Napoli are brilliant often. It was Roma. Roma made this game interesting by showing up. And as you said, especially in that second half, and, that sort of a thing where It really felt to me in that second half, it was, and this is almost, I think, what I love best about Mourinho when Mourinho is good. When Mourinho is good, he gets teams doing this. Mourinho's Roma, much like Mourinho's Inter when they went to Barcelona, they knew they weren't as good as Napoli. Nobody was watching that game and thinking these teams are technically equal. I mean, you look at the goal that Osimhen scores off the bat with Kvaratskhelia assist, all of the little movement that goes into even Mario Rui's contribution to the build-up, but especially, of course, Osimhen, chest, thigh, instep, roof of the net, spectacular. You know who the better team is here.
Palla sul destro, prova a centrarsi, appoggia per Mario Rui. Sta arrivando anche Di Bala a dar fastidio, gran giocata di Mario Rui, ancora per Kvaratskhelia, morbida al secondo palo a cercare Osimhen, petto destro! Osimhen! Ma che gol ha fatto Osimhen! Tutto nasce dalla magia di Mario Rui, poi Kvaratskhelia, poi sul cross nella difesa della Roma. Osimhen ha fatto un capolavoro.
But Roma just refused to accept it, refused to lie down and stand there, you know, like the fighter in the ring who won't stop taking punches and starts throwing them back. And then Zalewski pulls out this cross, which is a really lovely cross, by the way, really, really well judged, well weighted cross the back post.
Cross in mezzo, morbido, con pallone in mezzo a cercare Pellegrini e poi il piazzato con il movimento di El Shaarawy sul secondo palo, il pareggio della Roma.
And El Shaarawy, who's almost a forgotten figure of Italian football. I feel like he's been around forever and he's only 30 and he's, you know, not ancient, but I feel like I still remember him as this kid bursting onto the scene and oh wow, he's going to be the next thing for Italy. But showing up and putting that ball home at the back post. And yeah, I think there was a real moment where the game could have gone either way. I think even at that point, Roma didn't sort of say, okay, we'll take the draw. It was one swing after another from each of them. And yeah, I really loved the way Roma played this game. I was high on Mourinho for the first time in perhaps a while, I guess.
Yeah, it was one of those games where you're like, oh, that's the Mourinho that I remember, you know, the guy that would really make every game a battle, make it really interesting. And you know me, I'm always partial to a strong defense and a great ability to just all of a sudden go vertical, you know. And I guess I've never really been that fascinated with Roma since he's taken over. Like, he's done a great job in the sense that he won the Conference League. And I think that he's doing the best that he can. He's had obviously a few injuries as well. But this game, it's interesting because you mentioned Steven El Shaarawy, yeah? To me, I'll always remember him as the guy that Ibrahimovic didn't want to play with in Milan and was like threatening in the dressing room and saying, I'm not going to play with this guy. And I'm like one of those that was like guilty at the time of thinking he must be rubbish. And he's just not like, and also his experience is starting to, he makes the difference. He is a player now that I think that Mourinho can really count on to make the difference going forward, especially considering that we've got to talk about this a little bit later on, what's going on with Nicolo Zaniolo, right? Because he's no longer an option for them to bring on. And in this match, there was, yes, I think it is the Osimhen, like this guy, I you know, we're talking top 5. I'm thinking now top 3. I don't know. I don't know what he is, but he is just this incredibly intelligent, technically gifted, everything you can imagine, and such a good guy. The way that he celebrated Simeone's goal as well, that winner, the way that he was going mad at the end. God, I would love to have Victor Osimhen on my team. And Jose Mourinho saying he dives, come on. I want my players to sometimes dive. I'm one of those people, so, you know.
I long since, I think if you watch this game with any seriousness over a long time, Mina, as we obviously have, like the idea that there is some sort of puritanical footballer out there who never takes a tumble, I don't believe in it anymore. Like maybe once upon a time, like I know at Arsenal, I used to believe that Alan Smith, because he only got one booking in his whole career, was like that. But no, they all dive sometimes.
To be honest, it bothers me if you're not going to fall. I know that sounds, but sometimes it's like, I'd rather that you just did your job for the team, you know, as opposed to like show that you're this really good guy. Like, you know, stop it, just fall and get this penalty, you know.
This is going to take us on a big tangent, and he's not a popular person for Italian football fans, obviously, because of the bite on Chiellini. But I always thought that with Suarez and the handball against Ghana, it made me sad because I wanted Ghana to win. But I also thought, I would do that. Of course I would. Sure. Like, if it gives me a chance to keep my team in the cup, yeah, of course I would.
It's interesting because I thought Napoli was so good because Napoli are just so good. And yeah, I thought there was the room to be a lot better. Like, there was a part of me that was almost disappointed in Napoli because there was that brilliant Lozano counter-attack. Did he make the wrong decision? Would I have also gone for that shot? Wasn't it Kim that was on the right that I think was in a better position?
Occhio a Lozano, c'è anche Kim che potrebbe partecipare all'azione, c'è anche Kvaratskhelia, va con il destro, Rui Patricio allunga il calcio d'angolo.
Then the Kvaratskhelia, when it was like this beautiful like layoff almost from Osman. And it was like a bad touch by Kvaratskhelia, which you could never ever imagine him ever having, but it was just like the wrong time. But yeah, there's this other thing about Napoli, which is like, all right, I'm going to change the entire front line, bring on these other players, and watch us dazzle. There's something about what Spalletti said afterwards, and he said, these guys, they train really well day in and day out. I'm not going to just always put Osman because they also deserve a chance to play. And I'm thinking, is that why you brought them on, because they deserve a chance to play, or is it because you actually were looking for that second goal that you thought they would provide? So I'm really interested in that, because having Raspadori and Simeone on the bench and having them capable of doing this, like the super sub that Simeone has become, the perfect goal, the always trying hard, And there was this other part of Roma that I really enjoyed, because obviously, like, I thought Matic was just excellent in the middle. I thought he was excellent. I even really liked Cristante. It almost bothered me when he took them off, like, especially Matic. But it was also interesting to watch because once again, Dybala in a big game gets lost. And I'm like, you see, there's my boy.
Oh my goodness. How did I not see this coming? How did I not know that sooner or later Mina would find a way to bring it back to
21 balls lost. 21 times he lost possession. 20 times against Milan. In the big matches, where is he? I don't care about your Empoli's, okay? I need this match for you to be the guy that makes the difference.
I think you made loads of really interesting points in there, Mina. I totally agree about Matic. I think what was interesting in this game actually is, so I sort of started off saying, we all know Napoli are better. They are better. They're more technically a proficient side, and they are. But actually, I think that was one of Roma's little victories was, yes, even though Napoli had more of the ball, which they did, they have it against everyone, even though there were moments like the Osimhen goal where you just have to go, okay. I actually thought they did a really good job of disrupting the passing lanes for Napoli. I think they got 15 interceptions in this game, which is a really big number. And a lot of that was with the back four, by the way. I think maybe 2/3 of it more was just the back four making those aggressive use of the wing backs to jump on passes. But I just think Mourinho had done his homework and had seen the ways that Napoli liked to play the ball and had trained his players well to deal with it. And I think that's again where I go to the manager and the impact he does have. And I have such mixed feelings about Mourinho this season. Someone who actually I know is another European football journalist and someone who's a person who knows his onions. Charles Duxbury was messaging me and saying, "Oh, but Roma are languishing here. He can't be doing that good a job." And I think he is doing a good job. I think I go back to that thing about the expected goals and the fact that if it wasn't for Tammy Abraham's dry run, I think that the team would be in a better position in the table. I think they're having a solid season, but
are they?
It's not always fun to watch. They're not always fun to watch. And that's always the thing with Mourinho. And it could have been again here, but the second half, he showed that with his back to the wall, he was able to get something more from them. They've got some players who I don't mean to sort of overly diminish what I'm saying about the technical quality. I think Zalewski's developing into a really nice player, by the way, the fullback. I think he's actually got something. And I think, obviously, Abraham and Dybala, I know Dybala didn't have the best game here, but have been in strong form recently. But yeah, I think both teams sort of had moments where they were getting their game plan done. Both teams wanted to attack down the wings, but I thought overall Roma won that sort of tactical battle more than Napoli did. The difference was that Napoli have better players.
It's a really difficult one when we do talk about, because I can see why you're saying that, Mourinho's done a good job. And there's a part of me that also agrees with what Charles said, in the sense that they're still in sixth position. They're still behind Milan and Atalanta, who don't have the resources that they have. Weirdly enough, they have a larger wage bill in that. And since people love to always know
But it's 1 point to third. It's 1 point from third to sixth.
You're right. But again, this is really, I have to really make this, other than Napoli, which I don't expect them to be anywhere near, because Napoli have shown this to be like a masterclass of football. But I do sort of feel like I kind of felt like they would be, I don't know, they would be better. Do you know what I mean? I think their team is pretty good. And I certainly think it's better than Atalanta's. So there's a part of me that's like, should they have been better? And I say this only because I expect a lot from Jose Mourinho. If it was anyone else, I perhaps wouldn't. But because I do hold him in high esteem, even though it doesn't seem like it with the way that I've always gone for him. But it is because I think he is, always has been a good coach. I know that sometimes that people will always come at him for the way that they play their football. And I'm definitely one of those people. But there's a part of me that is that it was kind of dependent on what Dybala could do. There isn't that desire to really try to find a different route. Like Stefan El-Shaarawy was the difference maker here, but Zaniolo hasn't really developed. I feel like Pellegrini is that guy that's always either pretty good or really absent. I agree with you in Zalewski. I think Matic is very important to that midfield too, and Smalling has been impeccable, really. He's been impeccable last season as well as this season.
You say that. I think I agree with him good mostly, but actually he is at fault on the Simeone goal. He gets too far off Simeone and gives him that space to turn.
No, you're right. Actually, there's nothing I can do to defend him on that. But in general,
it doesn't mean he didn't have a good game. I think he had a good game other than that. It's just sometimes, goals happen, don't they?
But when you can depend on Simeone and Raspadori, and you can rely on Elmas or whoever comes off the bench, okay? Even, for example, how Inter have managed to deal with like Brozovic's absences or whoever it is, Lukaku not doing well. I do feel like Roma haven't made use a lot of certain players. Like Belotti is pretty much like, I don't get the point of him, There's never been an alternative really going forwards other than the same Shmurodov is the only other attacker that they have who's, again, never been tried or tested and just hated. And I also just like the way that like, he spoke really well about Zaniolo and now they've closed the door on him. I also understand that, so I want to defend him with that. Actually, let's talk about that. What do you think of the whole Zaniolo thing?
Well, yeah, there's some news on that we should talk about, which is Zaniolo was followed home after this game. Some sort of fans trying to confront him, and I need to sort of stress. We shouldn't even need to stress because, frankly, I think any sort of sane person thinks that's disgraceful and unacceptable, and I hope he's all right because that's horrendous. Being followed to your home by anyone who's threatening violence to you, I can imagine actually it's not okay, and there's a reasonable question to ask about what responsibility people from the club who speak publicly have to try to bring down the tension, I suppose, to strammatizzare, to use the Italian word, to take some of the drama out of the situation. Because, Zaniolo has not helped himself in terms of his public reputation. And this is not trying for a second to victim blame for being followed home. That is never, ever, ever acceptable. But you can understand why some Roma fans might be annoyed at Zaniolo when he refuses to go to a game, right? That's not saying go to his house and bother him. It's just saying you can understand why the relationship between fans and player isn't great. And is it now the responsibility of Mourinho to try and de-escalate this a bit and say, listen, things have gone way out of hand. Like, he's a person, because someone has to take that responsibility for the club. I don't know how you feel about that, Mina.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that also, I know that 23 is old in football life, but it is really young in real life. Like you just...
Really young? Oh my God.
Like, I mean, my niece is 24 and I think of her as being like a child. Like sometimes the way that she like logically goes about things is so illogical. I can't understand it, And I just think to myself, like, he's a kid, like subjected to a lot at this age. Like I'm not in any way, shape or form trying to make him innocent. I get that he did some things that were pretty bad, like I almost don't even understand it because at the time when we were speaking about it, we recorded this mini video last week when Nikki and I saw each other and we were talking about the fact that he wants to go. And I thought that obviously there was a destination, but there was a club that was interested in you, like, that was genuinely interested in you and could afford to be interested in you, not Milan. And for you to do all of this fuss and not know who's coming, and then obviously who is going to come other than the likes of, it wasn't going to be Chelsea. So it was, teams that were not going to be the level that you want. You're going to leave Rome and everything that behind it to go to Bournemouth. I understand your decision not to take that, but then you can't kick a fuss and say, I'm not going to play in these games. So I'm not saying that his behavior isn't immature, but it's kind of what you would expect from a kid. Like they are going to make bad choices. I wish he was better advised. That's what upsets me. Mm-hmm. I feel like Thiago Pinto kind of like poured a lot of gas onto like a very dramatic situation already. and was saying like, puts us in a terrible situation and financial fair play. Again, I understand their reasonings behind this, but they are grown men and they have to understand that they're talking about a kid.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that I probably would never have said this before. Before I would have been like, I can't believe he's doing this and all of this. But as you get older, you start to really see the difference of how you act when you're younger and when you're older.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And it becomes even more important for you to like try to protect the kids. And on this level, I feel really sorry for him. But I also understand that there is going to be anger directed at him. And he needs to learn from this, really learn from this.
I can't imagine what it's like to be followed to your house by a group who are explicitly threatening you violence. It's never acceptable, and nothing that he's done justifies it. Nothing at all.
Nothing.
And that's sort of a separate thing to say, and then say, what is acceptable is for a fan to go, oh, he didn't come to the game when he was called up. Now I don't like him. That's acceptable. Like, you're allowed to like not like a footballer. You're allowed to be annoyed at a footballer who does something that undermines your club. Of course you are. I feel sorry for him, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Mina. And I think people forget this all the time. People think just because people have got money, because they've got status, that suddenly they've got the maturity to handle situations. And I can't imagine who's told him it was a good idea to turn down that call up the other day, because as you said, he doesn't seem to have a good offer on the table. So what was his leverage? He had none.
But there is a part of me that wonders, like, why did the situation get so bad? And then I think of like Karsdorp as well, and I feel like he was he may not have been the world's greatest player, but he was really relied on last season, and he did do a job, and he was just sort of dealt with in a really harsh manner, which made me very unhappy. I just felt like that was, to me, it was tantamount to almost abuse at this point, like to just go out and be like, he was a traitor to the team. I thought was a little bit harsh. I feel like it's a bit weird for Zaniolo to all of a sudden turn so much against the club. So what I would like to know if there's something more in this. And before like people would even get so angry, you have to understand that there's something for this. I don't think he just turned around and decided, like, I'm done, I'm better than all of this, So this is why I find it illogical that people would be so angry with him, because you never know in football what the reasons are. And sometimes we don't know until many, many years later.
That's it. And a lot of sympathy for Zaniolo today, and that's unacceptable stuff. We should, because we've done a lot of Roma. We should probably talk a tiny bit more about Roma before we move on. I realize that this segment's already getting on, but I think the Simeone thing in particular is so extraordinary, Mina, because he literally has not started a league game for them since he signed. So you're talking about someone who last season at Verona was this sort of brilliant, sort of shining beacon on a team that was going horrendously, on a team that was in a season-long, miserable, unhappy fight at the bottom of the table. Scored 17 goals, started 32 games, and he makes this move to Napoli. And who knows what he expects in terms of arriving at Napoli? Because Victor Osimhen's there. You're not going to be like the top guy, and that there's going to be competition. And he might have expected to start a bit more. He started one game in the Coppa Italia, he started 2 games in the Champions League. Other than that, it's all sub-appearances, 14 sub-appearances. And yet you don't get even this tiny hint of, I'm annoyed with my lot. You get 7 goals off the bench, 4 in the Champions League, 3 in the league. You get this winning goal here, and you get someone brilliantly taken by the way. I mean, yes, Smalling was too loose, but he still turned and finished brilliantly.
Quindi la giocata dentro Simeone per il 2-1 Napoli. 85 minuti. Colpisce Simeone.
You get like the proper like all-in celebration. And that's the magic, isn't it? That's the magic that wins the league as well, is having a squad that's willing to accept roles, accept that they don't all get to be the star all the time, and will grab that moment when they have it.
Yeah, precisely. And how many goals does he score that really secure victories, Winning header against Milan. Now this one, he's become almost clutch. We need a goal. Simeone comes on, he's a super sub, and I remember Tevez for Manchester United was like this amazing super sub that they would just always introduce, and that would just bring so much quality to the game. And especially for Simeone, because he's just such a likable character. That's the thing that I think is so interesting about this Napoli side is, I was always a bit like, we joke, but in senior, like they just always came across as, like these really gifted players, but seem to have a bit of an attitude, But this team just seems to really like each other. And I love the dressing room harmony. I even love Spalletti and like the gifts that he hands out and like the handshake or whatever it is that he needs to do. And I don't know. I feel like it would almost be very sad if they didn't win this. And I don't think that we're in danger of that not happening anymore. It's becoming more and more confirmed that Napoli win this. I almost want them to forget about this and now focus on winning the Champions League because they've got a great chance of doing something magical there, which means obviously a lot of money.
Hey gang, just wanted to let you know that you can now get a free 14-day trial of our Chronicles Tifosi Patreon membership.
Subscribe now for free for 14 days to get access to all of our full episodes, solo minisodes, bonus content, even behind the scene bonuses like our chats about football, and of course, our chats about life in general. You can also get the entire back catalogue of Serie A Chronicles content.
So head over to serieachronicles.com/Patreon and subscribe to the Chronicles Tifosi membership for free.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.